This is afternoon programming with L. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 25 of afternoon programming. Of course, it's me, the one and only L. What's going on, everybody? Man, I've been wanting to get this next guest on the podcast for a while, just because we go way back to when I was like heavy into photography when we first linked up. Kind of like, I want to say it like either a Photobook or like a concert or something like that. If I want to say, but it feels like it's been forever. But one thing that I really liked about this person, they have a great style. Like when it comes to photography and your work, I can tell that you put a lot of thought into it, and it's wild. But before all of that, before we get into that, let me introduce the next guest I have here, my homie JRaff. What's going on, man?
What's going on, man? Pleasure to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
No problem, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to be here. So I always appreciate everybody that comes through. And I always say this at every like episode that I did this podcast because I wanted to talk to the homies and other creatives who I feel like are doing dope things or just dope creatives in general, you know. And it's cool to get kind of like a background on the individual, you know, versus like people see your work and stuff, but it's a different thing when you kind of get a little glimpse behind the curtain, you know?
Yeah, so, absolutely.
That's
absolutely
dope. But before we go any further, man, plug your social media, your website, or wherever people can find you.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's best to find me on my Instagram at JRaff Shoots. That's JRaff as in Frank, F as in Frank, Shoots. Same thing for my website, www.jraffshoots.com. Twitter, I mean, pretty much it's everything. It's just JRaff Shoots. And that's where you can find me.
Dope, man. So make sure y'all follow this guy, man. They have dope work. So I want to ask you, man, to kind of get a little background on you, because I know I only know so much of you just about your work and everything. Starting from like, where are you originally from?
Okay. Yeah. So I was born in California. Both my parents were in the Navy.
Oh wow. Okay.
So they moved around a lot, but you know, they were settling in California. That's where they were like based at. And then like when I was like 2 months old, they pretty much moved here. We moved here to Georgia.
Oh wow.
So
okay.
I pretty much lived here in Georgia my whole life. I like grew up in Lawrenceville and like Gwinnett County.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty much. I've been here my whole life.
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you were just in like Cali for like 2 months, and then they were like, "All right, we're moving here."
Yeah. So it's always a trip. Like whenever I go back, because I get to see like I think I want to say like about 7 years ago I went back for the first time.
Wow.
Like since I was first born.
Yeah.
Because my parents were living in the Bay Area, like San Francisco and all that, and just seeing the area out there is like so incredible.
Yeah.
So. It would have been nice to live out there, but you know.
Oh yeah, Cali's a whole different thing, man. I loved it. I almost moved there before I moved to Atlanta, and
really?
So yeah, because I'm from Arkansas, and like it's real country, nothing. It's a very much slow pace of living, you know. And of course, back in the day, I'm not too sure you remember, like whenever the film industry was like going on, they're like, if you want to do film, you go to California. That's where Hollywood is. That's where all the movies
California, New York,
all those places, But of course, at the time, Cali, I mean, even to this day, it's still so expensive to live there.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And like, I went to go visit, like I had like a couple film friends who were out there, but man, it was like 10 of them living in a 2-bedroom apartment, just trying to live out their dreams. And I couldn't afford to live out there. And then this was at the time when Atlanta first started to pick up, like there's movie studios coming out here, and Marvel slowly started to shoot out here. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll come out here. And so it's interesting. So originally born in Cali, but mostly you lived here in Atlanta.
Yeah, more or less. By way of, you know, like living in Lawrenceville. Yeah. So I was always like 40, 50 minutes from the city.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And, you know, and then whenever I started really getting into shooting, you know, I was always just driving out there, making that trek from, you know, the Lawrenceville area to come down to the city. And do whatever.
Wow, that's dope. So did you pick that up as a young kid, or was that kind of something that came later in life?
It definitely came later. You know, I've always been like a creative person. You know, I was into music when I was younger. You know, my parents really pushed me to getting banned when I was in school. So I was doing music. I started drawing, and I always had an interest in like taking pictures.
Okay.
Especially like whenever I started picking up skateboarding.
Okay.
So like me and my friends were real heavy into like filming each other.
Yeah.
Doing tricks.
Kind of like the Thrasher magazines and things like that. Yeah.
Things like that. So, and then eventually, I started trying to take pictures with my phone. Once I finally got like a nice smartphone with a good camera.
Yeah, like a DSLR or something like that.
Well, no, not even. Yeah, not even yet. Yeah. Like I want to say like in my junior year of high school, I had like a Samsung Galaxy S3.
Oh, right? Wow, yeah.
And I was like taking like landscape photos with my like Samsung Galaxy S3, and I was like editing them in VSCO.
Wow.
Or whatever like editing software I had on my phone, like whatever app I was using. Yeah. And so that was like my photography experience, like starting off. Yeah. And then once I graduated high school, I put some money together, and then I bought my first DSLR.
Wow. And which one was that one?
I was shooting with like a Nikon D3000.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's crazy. So then when you first start off when you're skateboarding, you're like, you guys and you and your friends are just like photographing each other, videoing each other, just, doing skateboarding. Yeah. And then after that, like in the same time, you're taking photos of landscapes, and that's kind of piqued your interest to be like, okay, maybe I should upgrade and pursue this, kind of like that.
Yeah. And, but at the same time, like even outside of that, I always had like an interest in like capturing images, like, I had even like before I started taking pictures on my phone, I had like some like Fujifilm point and shoot camera,
okay,
and I like a 35 millimeter joint, but like it was like a waterproof camera.
Oh, okay,
I got it for Christmas, and I would like just kind of like take photos with it, and I wasn't like really like super passionate about it, or I wasn't like as serious about like or intentional about it as I am now. With my photography, it was just kind of like something fun to do.
Oh, okay.
Creating images, and then like I really got into it a lot more. As I got a little older, when I got in high school, and when I started taking those photos with my phone.
Got you. So then, when it comes to the point of you start to take it a little bit more serious, and you're like, you know what, I want to do this and pursue it. Did you have anybody that you looked up to? You're like, wow, they're pretty dope. I like their imagery. I kind of want to shoot like this in my own way. Did you have anybody like that you kind of influenced you a little bit?
Like when I first started getting into it?
Yeah.
Or, let's see. One of my good friends, she had been taking photos, similar photos on her iPhone. And that's where it kind of inspired me to, start doing the same thing on my phone.
Yeah.
Samsung.
Oh, okay.
And that just kind of like spurred the that creativity within me to take those photos. And then when I started taking more photos, that's when I started really getting into like street photography.
Oh, okay.
And there was like a lot of local dudes in the city that I had enjoyed and looked up to, like Quan ATL.
Oh yeah.
I want to say like Nick D'Andrea, a lot of dudes in the city, a lot of the cats in New York. First, Gregory Berg, Volandez.
Yeah.
Those like when I like that, and that was like when I first started like getting on Instagram, and I was just like, I started like following all these like photographers, and I was just like, damn, I want to create all this like cool shit that I see, and like so I just started driving to Atlanta like from Lawrenceville, like it'd be like anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour sometimes because of like how traffic was, and I was just like, I just wanted to be in the city. I wanted to create because there wasn't anything like really interesting in my area. I kind of got tired of the whole just like green trees and like forests and everything, and I was like, no, I want to go to the city. I want to like look at the buildings. You know, I want to get on rooftops, things like that. You know, so that's where I was at with it.
No,
you know,
definitely. That's dope. Because when you said, I remember when like Instagram, when I first moved to Atlanta, at the time, I know I was doing videos and I wasn't into photography yet, but I always found it interesting. And like you said, I followed people like First, 13th Witness, if you remember him. And then I really the first person that actually inspired me to do street photography when I first started was Evan Raft.
Oh yeah,
Evan.
Evan. Oh my God, how can I forget Evan?
He's super dope, and of course I think he's from Atlanta, or he's from Georgia. But like seeing like some of his street photography, I was like, damn, I want to create shit like that. And kind of like how you were saying you would take like an hour because you wanted to come out and create. I lived in Morrow at the time when I first moved here with some homies, and I would drive like 6 a.m., come up here to catch the sunrise and look at the people, watch them interact, and just sit here for like hours capturing photos and stuff, not even knowing exactly what I was going to create, but just wanting to be a witness and capture those things. Because I've noticed for me, I don't know how it is for you, for like me, my whole life, I've been a people watcher. And I always watch people because I was always I was very shy and very quiet, and I never spoke a lot growing up, unless I was like around my close friends. But I kind of applied that to photography. I would try to be as quiet as possible and like not let anybody know I had a camera, because
basically like becoming like invisible,
exactly,
like a fly on the wall type thing.
Because I'm pretty sure you notice most of the time when you like people, when they kind of see somebody has a camera, they kind of switch up a little bit, like, oh, there's a guy with a camera here, let me versus catching them in their not natural habitat, but like in their natural self. You know, and there's something cool about that. Like there was a book too that I had read. I couldn't afford it at the time, but I would always go to Barnes and Noble and read it. The Faces of New York, or People. What is it? It's like a people book, but it's this guy who he just photographed people in New York, because he would just take people that he thought were interesting, photograph them, give them, and they would tell him about their story of how they got there. About, I forgot.
It's like a product, like the people in New York. I think that's it.
Exactly. And I was like, that is so dope.
Yeah.
And seeing like, I kind of like this podcast in a way, like to me, people are very interesting, because the way that I kind of look at life is like, we have all these different choices that we make to get to wherever we're at when, in life. Like right now, like I made certain types of choices to, one, come across the path of you, and we have this common thing, photography. And then now I'm like, well, now I'm doing a podcast as well. Nice. And like, and it's all these different choices we make. And I find it interesting that all these choices make up a person. And I always wanted to like go deep dive into that. And I always found it interesting. And so that's why I love street photography so much. Now I can't do it as much just because I'd be, waking up early. I'd be like, man, I want to fucking sleep in. But that's why I loved it. So then street photography was like your first thing you started to get a peak interest in. So coming to the city. And what was that like when you first started? Like, were you just kind of like, how I said, like just capturing whatever you could? Or did you have any, like, I'm going to try to capture something cool today, or like something for the MARTA or something like that?
It was definitely like, just kind of like being present and capturing whatever I saw, but eventually I think it became a little more intentional on certain things I wanted to do, and then from there I started doing a little bit more traveling.
Okay.
I went to New York a few times and in Chicago, and I was just trying to go out and just take photos of, different cities and just capture the essence of that city. In any way I could, so it was just a more of a desire to expand or try to be like more intentional instead of just kind of like doing what I had been doing, like come at it with more of a purpose and like say like, okay, like you were saying, like, I want to do this. I want to go out and take a photo of this because I think it would be cool. But yeah, that's kind of where it started pivoting to.
No, definitely. I definitely feel that, because I think when I first started, I didn't know what I was going to capture. I was just like, hopefully I capture something dope. But even if not, I found it exciting to just be out and about, and like, I think I remember like what I would always do is like I would look at what the people who were better at me at the time in photography were doing, and I'd be like, okay, how can I do my own version of this? Thanks. And like it's funny because like I think about now that I'm older, like I think about what I used to do when I first moved here, man, and I would like climb these garages, like these car garages, parking garages, and be at the top hanging off the side trying to catch this dope little view.
Yeah.
And like there's like some familiar places, you know, every photographer knows about. And I'd be like, okay, but how do I find the places that nobody knows about? And so just spending hours walking back and forth, going into buildings, trying not to get caught by security and stuff. And just to capture like one dope shot to post or something, you know?
Absolutely.
And so that's like something I know so how long were you doing street photography before or you started like expanding, or were you already expanding like with portraits or concert photography?
Let me see. I think cuz like I had like really started taking photos with like a DSLR I want to say like in 2014, and then from like I want to say that 2014 to 2016 period I was like really heavy street photography. But I don't know, I think I started getting bored a little bit of it. You know, and I think there was like this huge surge of like street fashion photography. There was like I felt like there was just like a huge wave of it.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like you know, like pages like High Snobiety and like Hype Beast were just like flooded with all these different like streetwear kind of images, and I was just like, damn, that shit's really cool. And I was like, I wanted to do some stuff like that. And at the time, like I felt like I started getting into my own bag, like stylistically. Like I felt like you know, I felt like I was developing kind of like a style fashion wise, you know, and I was just like, oh, well, like wouldn't it be cool if I like could get people that I feel like are, you know, like stylish, or maybe they're interesting, or just like incorporate people in some of these locations that I've been shooting at. Cause it's just like you said, you know, like you go and you find these locations and you spend hours like walking, and that was like a vast majority of what I was doing from like that 2014 to 2016 period. You know, I was just walking places. I was just going everywhere, you know, and I was just like, I have all these like really cool locations that by themselves, they're real dope. You know, like you take a photo of it and it's just like, it's like a real nice location to shoot at. But like, what if I could have somebody in these locations filling up that sort of negative space? You know, and so that's when I started sort of making a pivot to shooting more people. And it was like a bit of like a learning curve a bit, you know, just because, you know, you have to accommodate for lighting up like a subject, you know, you got to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and like reach out to people. Not everybody's gonna like hit you back. You might like DM like, you know, 5 to 10 people, you might get hit back by like 2 or 3 folks.
Exactly.
You know, so, but it was, you know, it definitely was like a crucial moment that brought me to where I am right now, you know? So yeah, that was like when, like, I want to say like 2016, 2017 is when I started making that pivot.
Yeah. And that's so interesting, because I think a lot of creative people go through that, like not just in the photography space, but kind of when you get into this creative process when you're first starting. Like for example, like when I started making music back in high school, like, you know, I think where I'm from, there's a lot of trap. So I was like, let me make some trap music. But then you kind of hear different types of music and you're like, oh, let me explore over here. You know, photography, you're like, I love doing street photography. Oh, you come up, you might, at the time, since we're lucky to have social media when we caught it at the beginning, you're like, whoa, this portrait photography is crazy as hell, you know, telling these stories. And so I was kind of like the same way, because I think I had done it for a year or two, kind of like you. And then, like you said, it's cool to take a picture of the place, but then when you can kind of incorporate people, it makes it something else.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And then I know for me, always having a love of music, I was like thinking, okay, how can I take photography and get into these places where I can see some of my favorite artists perform while also capturing some dope shots?
Yeah.
And like, because I know you've done some. You eventually moved to a little bit of concert photography, right?
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, I guess, because like I was I was doing a lot of portraiture, but I also wanted to do like concert photography just because, like you said, I want to see these artists.
Yeah.
So I started trying to make connections in that regard. And I want to say we actually met at A3C.
Oh,
and that was like
it?
the very first sort of like concert festival thing that I ever did.
Probably was. It's been so long.
I can't remember. I can't remember what the circumstance was that we had met.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like the first time that we had met in that place, and it was while I was doing like the portraiture stuff, I think it just kind of like went hand in hand with the concert photography stuff, because I felt like I was incorporating a lot of what I was doing with portraiture. I'm trying to do the same thing with the concert photography. So it was just kind of like a beautiful marriage of that sort of, vision.
No, definitely. I remember when I first, like, I guess was trying to do concerts. I would do a lot of concerts that I knew homies who were actually performing. I'm like, hey, you need somebody to take your pictures. Let me go here. And it would help me. It would help them get pictures of themselves performing or whatever. But then also it would help me sharpen my skill in capturing all this movement, energy, and things. And then I remember, like, I think there came a time where I started to get a little impatient, and I was like, I want to get into these big festivals and stuff. And of course, I'm pretty sure with you, I know for me, like the first, I know I got into A3C because I think I joined like the media team, but then there would be like Afropunk, and there was this other festival, Milk and Cookies Festival.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, I don't know anybody here, so how can I finesse my way in here? Sure. And so like, the Milk and Cookies Festival, before I knew anyone, I finessed my way in. I just finessed my way in because I kind of knew, Jameson, the artist. He's a singer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I know him and his people a little bit.
Really?
Yeah. And like, I used to
you got to introduce me, man. I love Jameson. I've been like a huge fan.
He's got at the time when he was first coming up, he had a street team, and I was like, oh man, I love your music. Let me be a part of it. And I got cool with one of his manager street team people or whatever. And like, I knew, who was it? Him. And I had like his.
You talking about the bald white guy, Jameson, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
now, back then he had long hair. He had he was going with the Jesus look.
Yeah, I remember.
And he was there. And I remember I finished my way into Milk and Cookies because I literally, I think I Ubered there, and I was like, I have to find a way in. And I was just so sure that I was going to get in. And like, they always have like a media booth or whatever for like photographers and everybody. Sure. And I walked up and I was like, hey, my name is such and such. And they were like, we don't have your name on the list. And I was like, hey, I'm Jameson's shooter. Yeah. Like, I'm just making up shit. I'm just like, I'm his shooter. I got to get there. He's about to perform. You got to let me in. Thanks. And the guy behind there, if you talk with enough confidence, and be like, oh, well, shit, maybe we fucked up. And sure enough, I got a media pass, and I was able to run around and do whatever, and got to meet Jameson. I was like, hey, and he was like, how you get here? I was like, man, don't worry about it. I got you. He's a real cool dude. But doing stuff like that, but I've done that like plenty of times. Yeah. But it brings me out. Have you ever like finessed your way into like a concert or a festival of just like, going with the flow of things? That you can talk about? No.
Let's see. No, I don't think so, man. I'm not smooth like that. I just gotta be. I gotta keep it a beam, man. I'm just really not. I don't have that finesse gene in me.
Man,
I just don't.
I think it's like, I know I would always be scared. Yeah. Because there's like tension there. You're like, oh shit, I don't know if I'll pull this off.
I would like, yeah, that's me. I was just like, if like I got pressed, I would just like. I would fold. I would fold like immediately.
No, yeah, because I remember there was this other time where I think Jack Harlow, way back in the day, had come down to Atlanta. He's performing at Masquerade, which is this event place for those who don't know. And I remember
Old Masquerade?
No, wait, was it Old Masquerade? Yeah, it was Old Masquerade.
Okay.
And he had come down, and he was just had some sort of little bubble, like where he was kind of blown up. And I remember what I would always do for places like that. I would always show up early, like really early. And like, I'd be like, hey, what's going on? Just act like I belonged. I'm like, hey, I had to come here early. I drove from out of town. Because even to this day, people don't know I have my Arkansas license, and so they think, oh wow, you're not from here, you know. Hey, I might have to bleep that out.
That U.S. government.
But I had it, and I'd be like, hey, I drove 8 hours because it's 8 hours to drive back, and I was like, hey, he told me to pull up.
Yeah,
I'm here to whatever, and everybody would see me and they'd be like, oh, okay, bet. And I remember I just finesse walked through, not question anything. And I even met him, and he was like, he talked like he knew me, and we ain't never met.
Yeah.
And so I did that like a few times, or sometimes sneak past shit just to get in.
Thanks.
And just to capture events. But it's funny because like, I think I would just see other people do it, and I'd be like, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then and there was a lot of times I folded under pressure, and I was like, I can't do it.
I can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. That happened a few times, like at South by Southwest. I went out there and I just didn't go after it. I was like, you know, being in a new place. But it brings me to ask you, so how many, like, do you have a favorite concert that you shot, or like a favorite artist that you were like, I'm glad I'm able to shoot this person?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. Actually, this most recent time, Isaiah Rashad.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I got the opportunity. I've been like working with this this online magazine, and the lady that heads the magazine, she really likes my work, so she she allows me a lot of opportunities. But yeah, no, I hadn't shot in a while. I had been going through like a little bit of a hiatus, kind of like like a depressive funk, for like a vast majority of last year. And then November rolled around, and then my homegirl was just like, hey, I know you get the emails for this magazine. You should hit her back and go do the shoot. I hit her up, and she got back to me like pretty quickly. And she was just like, hey, come through and shoot the concert, and I love Isaiah Rashad.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of The Sun's Tirade. His previous album he dropped in 2016, and when I heard he was dropping an album last year and also going on tour, I was just like, I gotta be there. I would love to be there.
Oh, that's so dope.
But the bread was tight, so I was just like, I don't know if I could be there. But then when I got the opportunity to go and shoot, I was just like, I mean, fuck yeah. I'm in there for sure. And it was really dope because, like I said, I'm a big Isaiah Rashad fan, and I'm just a big fan of music in general. So it's like when I can go out and do something, creative, and walk away with these images. But also, simultaneously enjoy the music and just kind of be in the presence of people that also enjoy the music. It's just a wonderful feeling. Man,
no, that's dope. I definitely dig it. I'm the same way because I've shot so many people. I kind of like.
What was your favorite?
Man, my favorite, probably. If I had to guess, I'm trying to think of everybody that I've shot. Cause my whole timeline kind of just shot it feels like it went super quick. It picked up super quick when I first moved here. But let me see. Some of the favorite people that I've shot, there's people that I never thought I'd get to meet with this photography thing. One was, this is real obscure, Electronica.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got to meet him and shoot a concert of his.
And you got to meet him.
Yeah. And
wow.
Because I remember at the time, this was when, if you remember Exhibit C, and that was out, and it's
It was during that time?
Yeah, it was during that time.
Holy shit.
And because one year, I don't know if you were there the year that he came through A3C. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't think so. Because that was yeah.
That's a while back.
Yeah, it was
when he was this enigma, and people were like, who the fuck is this?
Yeah.
This is wild, da da da. And I was a big fan of his. And then I was like, I remember when the track came out, and I was like, damn, man, I don't know if I ever get to meet this guy because he's so secretive and stuff.
Yeah.
And then come to find out he's coming to A3C, plus I'm getting to shoot, cover, meet him and everything. And he was real cool, down to earth dude. Meeting him, or shooting him, West Side Gun, that's something in hindsight, I didn't know how big it was at the time. I always tell people all the time, because I have the Supreme Blind Tail cover, as you can see right here. like, because how I met him was, which another person that I never thought could shoot, going on tour with Big Crit, if you know him.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You, I forgot you were on tour with Big Crit. That was incredible, man. For real.
It was wild because that was like at a peak, and it's interesting. But going on tour with him and seeing how the music industry works and tour life works, and it was a dope experience. Also very exhausting, constantly creating, but it was very dope. I wouldn't change it for anything. Shooting him, and then. But to go back to West Side Gun, I met him through another friend of mine. I don't know if you know this DJ. His name's DJ Kerosene. If you know him,
like vaguely.
Okay,
yeah.
He's a real close friend, and he knew West Side Gun. And at the time West Side Gun was bubbling, I knew nothing of the guy. I was like, "Who is this West Side? I never heard this guy."
Yeah, I just found out about Griselda like fairly recently, and
I got a text message like at midnight one day, and he was like, "Hey, I got my homie West Side Gun. He wants you to shoot his album cover. I told him about you, woo woo woo."
Yeah.
And he's like, "But you need to come over here on the west side through the hood, and like you need to come shoot." And I was like, at the time I was like, "Well, fuck it, let's go."
Yeah.
Met him, real cool dude. Shot the cover. Next thing you know, it's everywhere, and it's just like blown up. And I'm like, "Oh shit, this is wild." But then getting to shoot 2 more covers of his after that is like wild. Shooting Solange when she came down to Afropunk, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Who is it? Because like I have somebody shooting Pusha T when he came down. There's so many people. I'm trying to think of like all the people, because I know I shot T.I. because I was like with one of his artists from Hustle Gang. I was their photographer, so of course I met everybody in Hustle Gang.
Thanks.
And they were cool. And it's like, it's crazy because I always forget I know so many people, just because I'm like, I don't always keep in contact with people. And so I'm like, I don't know that many people, but then I'm like, oh shit, I actually know so many fucking people.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, but I think that's a few of them. I'm trying to really remember, because I know I got a bunch of photos on my phone of like artists and stuff that I shot. But yeah, I think probably those, Big Crit was something crazy. I'll say go back to that just because at the time, like he was going on tour for his Heavy as the Crown tour. And like I had just been working, doing events and stuff. And I was striving for something that I like, but I didn't know what it was. I was like, I don't know if you ever go through this where as a creative, you kind of, sometimes we feel like, I know for me, there were moments where I was like, I'm not getting my credit. Like I'm not getting my just due.
Yeah.
As far as like,
you have like a bit of a chip on your shoulder.
Exactly. Like I have to prove to people how dope I am, And I was going through that. And then I think randomly somebody had mentioned that Crit was going on tour, and they were like, hey, you should apply because like you have dope work. And like I just applied, and I was like, hey, I'm a photographer. Here's some of my work. Here's some stuff. And whatever, sent it off, met with his manager and his creative manager, I think at the time. Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, they're like, you're going on tour for 2 months. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. Yeah. And so that's wild. But I don't know if I'd ever do tour again, because tour was great.
Really?
Yeah. Well, like I'll say, maybe I would, but it'd have to be the right circumstances, because I'll be a little transparent about like me.
Sure.
So at the time, I'm not making a lot of money from like photography or anything. I'm just really shooting these dope images, whatever. Also, some of that is kind of my fault, I'll put, because as a creative, I don't know, for you, maybe like I was kind of undervaluing my art and my craft, my skills.
Yeah.
So like, I wasn't charging what I should have been charging.
Yeah.
And I was like trying to give people discounts or like hook them up or whatever, And so going on tour, like I'm the new guy. This is my first tour. And like I was only getting paid maybe like, I want to say a week, maybe like $50 a week. Yeah. Or something like that. A week.
Woo.
Yeah. And like, and then plus that was like a per diem for food or whatever, or just whatever. But you got to think about that. Going on tour for 2 months, that's 8 weeks. So do the math, but then add on top of that, all bills, rent, all these different things that I have waiting. And like, I came back home broke. I was like broke. My car got repoed. Like it was like all bad.
Goodness. Yeah.
And like, it was just crazy. And I was creatively worn out, and it was just like a lot, but I did have a fun time on tour because I met good people and things like that.
No, of course.
And then, but now I go back and what I should have done has been like, oh, I should get paid a little bit more than my expenses and stuff like that.
It's just like, like it's like you said, everything was waiting for you. The bills aren't going anywhere. Just because you're going on tour for 2 months doesn't mean that the gas and electric don't got to be paid and things of that nature, car payments, all that good stuff.
No, exactly.
So, you definitely have to you definitely got to put your foot down, because people will try to like all these big companies will try to hoe you, know, because they feel like they're doing you a favor by just bringing you along in the first place. And I'm just like, no, I have to get mine. I have to make sure I'm good.
That's like a thing that not just photographers but all creatives should be aware that, especially if you're in any industry, whether it be the music industry or I guess these big corporations, they want to work with you. Man, a lot of this stuff is like smoke and mirrors, and you at the end of the day, charge your price. Yeah, that's like a big thing. And it's funny because I would always hear it as I was doing photography, and I'd be like, well, I think I am charging my price, but then that shit happens, and I'm like, oh shit, I wasn't charging my price. But yeah, I think I'd probably do tour again, but then I'd be like, no, y'all got to pay me, X amount of dollars. That's gonna be for my skills, plus cover all these things while I'm gone.
And it's just a matter of it's either that or I'm not going. Sometimes you really have to say no to certain things just because, in this instance, you got a great opportunity, but at the same time, it's just you could have had the opportunity to do other shoots at home. Exactly. And made more money. Not to say you shouldn't have gone, of course, but at the same time, it's just when you're starting out and you get those sort of opportunities presented to you, almost every time, the first instinct is oh wow, this is a great opportunity. But at the same time, you have to understand what you're worth. And if people aren't willing to, meet you halfway, you just kind of have to put your foot down, because you never know what's going to come along down the road. No, definitely. And that was a big learning lesson for me back then. And I was like, oh, okay, shit has to change in order for me to make a living off of this, And so that's what it is now. Have you ever had the opportunity to go on tour, or would you ever? Not like a full tour. But I did some work with this record label. And we had drove to Virginia, me and a couple other guys. They were doing the record label was doing a HBCU kind of tour thing. And we had went to one stop in Georgia, and then I think a week or so later, we had drove up for the weekend to Virginia for another HBCU, and some artists from the label were there at and there was a parade and things like that. So I haven't been on tour per se. I got offered the opportunity. The only thing is that they were looking for somebody that also did video as well. And I'm not as savvy with video. I can be honest with myself, and I'm not that crazy with the video. And I've dedicated a lot of time and energy into my photos. But it was interesting. These guys, they liked my work, and they wanted me to go on tour with them to Europe. And I was just like, what? That's so crazy.
You're like, oh shit.
But I try to finesse like the best I could, but I was just like, I gotta keep it a bean. I don't really do videos like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's something I definitely want to do. But I like I said, I know the bag has to be right, because I don't want to come back and, I took time from work or I left and, there's all these responsibilities and all these bills piled up, so I still have to make sure that I'm I got money to send home for rent, of course. Things like that. So it's definitely something I want to do. It's definitely been a bit of a dream of mine, I would say.
That's dope. Yeah, I think it's if you're interested in it, I think it's dope. but like you said, the bag has to be just right. Like for you, it has to make sense.
It has to, it has to be, feasible.
Exactly. You talking about that actually also reminded me. I almost had the opportunity to go on tour with Isaiah Rashad at one point.
Oh man!
And this was back when in Sun's tirade days.
Oh wow!
And it was a little bit after that, and like, but it's because I have a homie who I don't know if he has a different manager or anything now, but at the time, the manager at the time, he was close to a friend of mine who's a producer, because my friend produced a track for JRaff a while back, and they were cool, and then they were looking for a videographer and a photographer at the time, and of course I did both.
For sure.
And they were like, "Hey, do you want to go on tour?" And then this was like, I think after the Crit thing, and I was like, it was either after or before, and I was like, well, this has to make sense to me now. I was like, I'm not about to go out here and just be, be happy to come along.
Ain't cutting it.
Exactly. And so it ended up not working out. It was crazy because like I think he had a tour stop in South Carolina, and he was like, "Hey, like, could you drive up to South Carolina to cover this concert and stuff?" Because I think his video guy had to leave for a little bit for something back at home. And I was like, yeah, but when we got there, it was kind of like a miscommunication, and we ended up just leaving, not even going to the show. It was wow,
what the hell?
Yeah, it was kind of wild, and I was just like, oh, okay, bet. Well, maybe this is a sign I shouldn't be. Going. Nothing against them or anything. It was just like, it just don't feel right. You know?
No, absolutely.
And so, I wanted to ask you, so then, because I know we were talking about like kind of like charging your price and stuff. Have you ever had to deal with like difficult people who are like trying to lowball you? Or are you kind of like firm? You're like, no, this is what it is. Like for my skills, if you want the photos, you got to pay me this.
I think like in a few instances, I can't like specifically recall like every instance. But I am pretty firm in what I charge. Sometimes I'll do specials, but for the most part, like I know what I'm valued at, and I know what I would like to charge, and then if people aren't really willing to, work with my rates, I try to accommodate, people based on, what their budget is for the most part. But some, a lot of times people, like I said, that, if you let them, they will try to owe you out of some work, and I know the caliber of work I do, and I know the effort and the time that I put into my craft, so, usually what I set my rate at is, I feel like, and I've been told by people often, no, I'm still not charging enough. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, wow.
So, and I feel like I believe that in myself, but sometimes like I want to have my work a little more accessible to certain people, just so I can get out there a little more.
That definitely makes sense. I think I kind of can't. I'm kind of like that with like people that I know or I'm close to, where I'm like, no, it's cool. Like we can work it out. But everybody else, if I don't know you, man, I'm like, I'm breaking your head off with this price. Yeah. I'm just like, I don't know you or anything like that. And so, but it was gonna. Well, damn, I was about to ask you something. It was bringing me to ask. I can't remember, because like now, like I think of all the people I've shot and stuff, and so my price is like shot up and shit. And now, because I think there came a point for me where I kind of fell out of love with photography, and so like, and then that's where kind of music came in. I was like, well, let me get back into music for a little bit, and because I play the piano and I do all these different things and start singing and all this other stuff. But now I'm kind of like, I kind of want to get back in a little bit. Okay. Doing portraits or doing kind of editorial type stuff.
Absolutely.
Cause I don't know if I have it in me to do another concert, unless it's like the homies, like West Side Gun or them or anything. Cause I think I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm like, well, hey, I'll go to this event if y'all let me get into the pit or whatever. One of the crazy things I'll tell you, I just thought about this, was when I was on the tour with Crip. It's crazy how much power they gave me over the pit. They would ask me like at every show, hey, do you want other photographers in here? And that they were like, because we'll tell them no, and it's just you. And it's that kind of power. I was like, oh, you're letting me decide? I was
That's
like, oh
crazy,
shit.
yeah.
But I think in the Atlanta stop, I was like, no, let some homies come in. It's fine here because I know a bunch of photographers and they're dope. But like there was some city I was like, no, I want this to myself. I want this to myself.
For sure.
And so it's kind of wild. Damn, I was about to ask you. Oh, let me ask you this. So now, how long have you been doing photography? You would say like seriously, like professionally.
Let's see, like seriously, professionally. I want to say probably like about like 3-4 years.
3-4 years.
Yeah.
So then at this point with where you're at with it, do you have anything like as far as like goals that you're trying to get to with your business, or like do you want to take it somewhere else, or do you have anything, or are you kind of just enjoying the moment with what you're doing right now?
I'm trying to think. I mean, like I definitely have like goals for what I want to do. Like, ultimately I would like to support myself solely off of my art. Of course. But lately I've been trying to enjoy the process. I've had to do like a lot of learning and unlearning over the past couple of years, and I've made a lot of mistakes in like certain business practices, and I feel like lately I'm just trying to improve as a creative, but also sort of like change with the times. Like there's a lot of things that I had to learn, like content creation wise, like pivoting from different apps, like you have to be able to do it all, like Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, things of that nature. So I'm just like really trying to like learn and enjoy and fall in love with the process overall. I'm still setting goals, like like absolutely, like that's like there's no doubt about that. Like I always like journal everything that I want to accomplish throughout the year, and keep tabs and hold myself accountable to those things. But like overall, I've just been trying to stay focused, and that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
I dig that. That makes sense, man. Because I think like one of the things that I wanted to do is like kind of like, which I think a lot of photographers do, is release like a photo book of stuff. That'd be dope. Or like one of my goals, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it, is I want to get this right here put into a museum. Kind of like that'd be really dope to have this very street grungy thing in this like high class museum or something.
I can see it.
That'd be dope, because like it'll hang on my wall until the day I die. But like I want to put this in a museum. It'd be dope to have like that stuff along with other things. But what was I about to say? But yeah, like do a photo book, or like now kind of like with how you were talking about the changing of things and the evolution of things. Like now trying to figure out like NFTs and stuff, and like if you want to do anything with that, or because like at first I'm like confused about it, but then I'm trying to learn more about it, and like because I have like I think 3 or 4 hard drives of like unreleased stuff, and I'm like, well, maybe I could put some stuff out there, like some concert photography of somebody's favorite artist or whatever, or like a concert series of selected things that never came out, and then people can own, as another way to kind of like pay the bills and make a living off of it. Or just, it's another cool way to, I guess, get stuff out there.
Yeah, because I've definitely seen, a lot of photographers get into the space, and it's just kind of interesting to see what they've been able to do with it. I'm not like too savvy on like a lot of the NFT talk though, and things of that nature, but it's definitely something I want to delve into a little more this year, do a little more research, but no, I definitely feel you on that for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, the last question I want to ask you, JRaff, before we end this episode, it's really dope because I love talking to other people who are into things that I'm into, like photography. It's just dope because it's like, for me, it's like nerding out and just like, oh shit, man.
A little bit,
So being, you said 3 or 4 years now into seriously doing photography, what's like one of the biggest lessons that you've learned along this journey that might like other people who are getting into it might help them as far as a photographer or creative?
Well, I mean, shoot, a lot, man. And a lot of these things, you know, I'm not perfect at it just yet myself. There's a lot of things I'm still learning. But you know, just like not falling into, you know, the trap of comparison. You know, be grounded within, you know, the work that you're doing, and you know, be proud of the progress that you're making, you know, on the daily. But also like, you know, like giving yourself like, you know, the grace to mess up, the grace to like learn, and just kind of like, you know, being like taking it easy on yourself, you know, because I feel like you can be your worst enemy, or you could be your best adversary. So it's just like, you know, you got to give yourself, you know, the grace and the patience, you know, to recognize that like, hey, you know, I'm not where I want to be, but, you know, I'm on my way. And, you know, understand that it's, you know, you have to fall in love with the, you know, the process, you know, growing. And then, you know, like also just like I said, you know, you gotta just be present, you know, you want to, cause like you're like in the thralls of doing certain shit. And it's just like, you are like, you could be so focused on what the next thing is. And I'm not saying you shouldn't plan ahead, by any means, but it's like, you'll forget all the dope shit that you were doing in one moment because you're so focused on, you know, the very next thing or where you're not at, that you won't even be able to appreciate, you know, the progress and the growth that you made at like that very moment, you know? So just like, grace, patience, you know, and, just be grounded in yourself, man.
Definitely. Dope. Great advice, man. From a great photographer, man. Because like I said, you're super dope, and it's just gonna keep going up for you. But that's episode 25 of Afternoon Programming. Before we go, one more time, plug your social media, plug your website, plug wherever people can find you.
All right, for sure. So it's JRaff Shoots. So that's JRaff as in Frank Shoots. And that's for my Instagram, my Twitter, my TikTok, and my website as well. So www.JRaffShoots.com, and definitely get at me on TikTok, man. I'm making a comeback this year.
Definitely.
I was going hard for a little bit, like
I saw your TikTok videos. I was like, oh, that's dope, man. Just showing your shoots and your creative and like just how you do things and stuff. So I fuck with it. It's
and one last
dope.
thing, have fun. Like just have fun with the shit. You know, like it's you gotta like you gotta just enjoy the shit, because if you're doing it and you don't like actually enjoy what you're doing, then you're gonna hate every minute of it.
No, definitely. It's kind of like my homie Stolen Drum says. The way that he kind of does things is he more so for him, he what works for him is not setting goals, but more so the goal is to always just enjoy the process. So if he's enjoying the process, he's constantly winning and he's constantly like having fun with it. Yeah. And so, like you said, and if you don't love it, maybe you should think about taking a break from it or just putting it down or whatever. So.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Make sure you follow JRaff on social media. Go to his website, book him for a shoot. If you're listening, make sure you subscribe on Spotify, rate and review. Apple Podcasts really helps us reach new listeners. Subscribe to us on YouTube. And other than that, man, we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.